Let's bow our heads for prayer, please. Our most precious Heavenly Father, be with us tonight as we go through the business of the town and for the people of the town. And guide us in the deliberations that we have and give us some support for things that might have questions about. And be with the ones that can't be here tonight for whatever reason, but be with the ones that are here. And we will do our best to do the things that are pleasing in your sight, and that we'll do the things that are pleasing in the people in Benson's sight. In God's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I made a motion.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Is there any questions anybody has of the report on the electric? You don't have to look much at this and tell that the equipment that we buy for the electric department is very expensive. New business, discussion of fiscal year 2025 budget. Mrs. Godwin.
Good evening, everybody. I'm glad you just brought up the fact of how expensive our electric purchases are, Mayor, because we're going to continue that trend. So for tonight, we're treating this more as a work session. We just wanted to get these documents in front of you all and kind of have an open conversation based on the preliminary budget that we are looking at for fiscal year 2025. The tax increase from last year, that revenue up to 59 cents has really helped the town, but as we all know, with all of these subdivisions and these infrastructure updates to keep up with these new residences, businesses coming into the town, we are still going to have to be looking at some ways to ensure the town can continue to operate in a financially responsible and resilient manner. So, just briefly, the PowerPoint is not going to go into deep detail like the documents in front of you, but just for an overview, as I said, we're still going to keep the $59 per $100 valuation for taxes. As of May 15th, the last scroll from the tax office brought our 1 penny down to $40,998.73. So currently that 59 cents should bring in $2,418,925 roughly. As of the last tax scroll, we have collected $2,209,854. So even with 6 weeks left in this fiscal year, we are roughly $100,000 over the cumulative tax fiscal year 23 collections. So that increase really has helped, and we are still seeing, we don't know what the full extent of that will be yet. So from there, I just have a brief summary of each fund for the next year. The details are printed on the handout right here, but just for everybody's reference. Sorry, there's a glare. So for the general fund, we included fiscal 24 revised because we all know that the approved budget last year always has some modifications to it. So what you can see is the current revision of the fiscal '24 budget, what we are recommending for '25, and I've included the increase or decrease dollar amount change and the percentage. As you can see, the general government is an 11% increase. With the cost of doing business and inflation, that's really menial. Along with the rest of police, fire, and culture, that includes the library and the museum in one, and recreation. That does look like it went down 15%. As we all know, with the building and the insurance settlements that came in, the adjusted budget was over the approved budget. So that looks like it's a bit of a decrease, but that really was just from the insurance settlement claims in fixing the Civic Center. So in that 11% increase for the general funding, sorry, we're switching back and forth with the letter. What we are including this year for the employees, as we know, everybody just received their merit increases in January for their evaluations. Going forward, we are not proposing a COLA at this time. We are proposing a 1.5% merit increase with the employee's evaluation. So currently evaluations are done once a year in January, so that holds the 6 months. We are looking at revamping the evaluation process as well in the upcoming fiscal year, so that may change the date of the evaluations to closer to the employee's start or hire date. So that will help spread out the cost of the merit increases as opposed to a lump sum hit halfway through the year. But in that increase, you do see a 1.5% for all employees. Additionally, that increase, we, personnel-wise, have funded 6 additional positions in the town for your review. 3 of which are engineers for the fire department. With the new Johnston County Fire Protection Service funding matrix funds at roughly $185,000 this year, that funding must go towards improving the fire service district, not just in the town, but the Banner district as well. The first year, the county is giving us the leeway to work on improving the service. And as we know, based on the presentations that Alan and many other people did throughout the year, Benson's full-time staff is lower than most other departments, if not all in the county. So we have been able to fund 3 full-time engineers, so that will put 2 on each shift at the fire department, using that matrix funding and the normal 12 cents of the 59 tax levy. Additionally, in that 11% increase, we were able to fund the finance director for the finance department. That position, as we've seen, is increasingly needed for the daily operations of the town. With the rate that we are growing, somebody needs to be in here in order to handle the daily overview of financials throughout the year, not just the budget once a year. So we do have that position funded, as well as 2 part-time customer service representatives, technically in the utility department up front. And the reason we looked at doing 2 part-time instead of 1 additional full-time is because we have seen a need for people to be able to backfill or staff those positions if someone is on vacation or sick. So the addition of 1 person still leaves times where someone would have to be pulling in from the back, billing other departments. And so doing the 2 part-time, we can get the salaries about the same, and then we also do not have to cover the overhead of the benefit package for the 2 part-timers as well, because they would be the under 20 hours a week. So those are the main increases that constitute that 11% to the general fund. Again, fire protection only appears to be a 4% increase. With the 3 personnel, they did have some larger capital expenditures last year in equipment, so that's what's washing that increase out. And the rest are really remaining the same solely for the inflation and the cost of doing business. I have the same breakdown for water, sewer, and electric. These are where you're going to see much higher increases for the upcoming fiscal year. As we know, the infrastructure work that we are doing, not only with the projects throughout the town, but the new infrastructure going in with the residential subdivisions, with the businesses, the cost of having to keep up for putting all of this in has been a bit more than I think was anticipated. So we are seeing, as you can see, a 23 and 28% increase in water and roughly an 8 to 9% increase in electric for next year in the overall total fund. Again, most of that is driven solely based on the fact that we are having to ensure that the town is functioning at a level in which we are covering the costs for operation. At this time, the cost for many of the items that our electric and water department are doing is not fully being covered. So we do have to increase the expenditures and increase the fees to ensure that we can get that money situation under control in terms of the fees. Let's see. Like I said, we already talked about electric. And I'm gonna put the town total up there, and I apologize. We were late getting these documents out because, well, this past couple weeks here has been a little crazy at the town, but in the building at least. So I wanted to have more of this. I wanted to throw all that out at the beginning and have you all look at this proposed budget summary that I've broken down, not only for the general fund and the water, sewer, and electric funds, but also for each respective what we call internal department. So it's broken down: finance, planning, facilities, board of elections. And I wanted to give everybody a couple minutes to look at that. And that's broken down into your key expenditure categories for each department: salaries, contingency, professional services. And if you look at those, you will be able to see the trends that we've already discussed going forward for next year, but also broken down a little bit more specifics. Because I really want to be able to have a conversation about everybody's thoughts today. So going forward, we can work on ensuring the budget that we present to you for final approval is something that everybody is happy with.
I want to give you guys a couple numbers too while you're looking through this. Go back to the general fund slide.
That public numbers that's not in there in salary, why is that?
I'm sorry?
Public Works is in there. Oh, you didn't, the numbers aren't in there.
Sorry, like I said, we were.
Let me give you a couple numbers really quick. Go up one more to the tax one. All right. So she gave you the current valuation is $409,987,329. It increased from last year by $64,221,392. So think about that in terms of what we've added to our town in 1 year is $64 million in tax value. Our penny last year was $34,576.59. This year it's $40,998. So our penny increased in the last fiscal year by $64.22. So you are seeing, and we haven't gone, and the county hasn't done tax evaluations yet. That'll happen next year. So you're already seeing with the boom that we're having where the increases are coming in on the tax side. Now these obviously are with houses that are CO'd, but you know what we've got out there right now that is not even complete yet. And Holiday Inn would not be, their full valuation would not be included in this yet because they're not done yet. So just keep that in mind too as you're looking through the documents that Kayla's giving you.
I got a question. I might be jumping ahead. Trash service? Going from-
Yes, so, and again, that's one of those,
Yeah,
the
that's
fee
a big
schedule, but
jump.
also, see, if we wanted to, sorry, the letter is a good preface to all of this, but again, because we just were able to get all of this out right now. If we'd like, I didn't want to read the letter to you verbatim, but if everybody would like, I can go through that item by item. You can ask him. The way I look at the budget, and we were discussing, I don't know the way that works best for everybody
In the room.
right, for me to present it. So, if anybody has questions and wants to know specific items, I am more than welcome to do that. Like I said, I just want to be able to have a conversation so we can make sure everybody is comfortable. Does everybody want to read the letter first, or do you want me to go through the bullet points?
I don't
Which
know,
would
but
be
either way,
preferable?
I'm not gonna be able to give you an answer tonight, cause I
Yeah,
need to study.
no, I'm
it.
not,
Right.
yeah, we're not looking for an answer for voting
Yeah,
for anything like that.
I can't even give you any input on it until I understand it first.
Yeah, just keep in mind, we give you the presentation tonight. You have 2 weeks to make a meeting, come and talk to us talk to us about line by line if you want to see it. We have to have a public hearing. So this is just the initial, the bullet points are, we're not doing a tax increase. There are increases in fees, which we discussed at the board retreat. We said we were going to have to increase some fees in order to get where we need to get in revenues. So that's what she's done. In regards to the garbage fees, now keep in mind, we're going to go out for bid in December. But she's been doing like a real hard grind on the garbage invoices, and seems like they've gone up more than their 3% CPI in the recent past. So we need to make some adjustments on those fees. So we're breaking even and we're not going in the hole. And that also includes the Porter Street facility.
And when she's referring to those increases, it's not like they went 10% over. We're looking at an average of 30 to 40% increase on the current invoice based on residentials, and as high as, I want to say, 220 on some of the dumpster rentals. I know other people have seen these increases with GFL compared to what they were paying recently as well. And as Kim said, I've just recently been able to deep dive into a lot of these bills, utilities, all the separate invoices to ensure that what we are offering to the town in regards to fees is adequate to actually cover our expenses on these. And unfortunately, that was one of those situations where when we finally did get a response from GFL, when I requested the updated rates, they were not what we originally were told they were or understood to be. So those increases are unfortunately bare bones to ensure that we can cover the cost of operations for those right now. And let me see, those brought, the general trash service was an increase of $9.36. It brought it from, I want to say it was $25.14 up to $34.50.
That's
As
what I
I
was
said,
talking about.
right, as I said, unfortunately, that is the cost for us to provide this service. I did not have rates prior to this. Kim has always gone off of what they said the rate structure increase would be. When it took us probably over a week or so to actually get the rates in a response, and thankfully we got them before this meeting because, again, we were going based off the historical 3 to 4% increase, and that's apparently just not what has been done. So those increases, unfortunately, are pretty needed in order to cover the cost of that.
And this brings up the conversation of what do we want to see in our new garbage contract? Do we want recycling? Do we want yard waste? Or do we just want garbage?
I just want garbage.
And then is that, now keep in mind, if you get rid of yard waste, is that pushing that back on Public Works to pick it up? Or are we telling people, you need to dispose of your yard waste
They sent me a
On your
contract saying
I
that
dispose of my
I
own.
pay them all these thousands of dollars.
I ain't, that just kinda shocked me, 3450, cause my in-laws
I see it in a-
pay cheaper than
in
what
an
we
open
currently
meeting.
pay
I said,
with the same company.
if they're
Yeah.
getting me, they're
It's
getting everything. And I come to find out that
That's why I was wondering if I was looking at it right.
there's
No,
4 other
unfortunately, I
companies,
have
and I
tried to
asked-
crunch those numbers every way from Sunday,
I
and
asked about that.
I've literally broken down the bills per day per
She,
resident, and that,
okay, she has been digging back through old bills and said, this ain't right, this ain't.
but if we want to continue looking at the fees, yeah. So the entire fee schedule, just like with this conversation with garbage, needs to be reviewed with a deep dive to ensure that the services we are offering to the residents are at a rate equitable to the surrounding municipalities, as well as the town being able to function not at a loss. That needs to be done separately. Unfortunately, there was not time to do an entire deep dive in the entirety of the fee schedule, but there were places that it was obviously mandatory that we had to make some changes. So those are the only increases that you're gonna see in the budget for this year. Let me find the first page, I apologize. Here. This one. The first increase, again, comparatively to the price of garbage percentage going up, there was a minor increase for Parks and Rec. The youth leagues for 6 and under were currently 20 and 35 for residents and non-residents. Those increased to 25 and 40 for resident and non-resident. Not only does that follow with all of the local municipalities around us, it actually is still a bit low compared to most of them. But because I know Matt is exceptionally passionate about not driving people away from being able to participate, especially families, multiple children, because so many people are moving in around the town are not residents, he doesn't want to push those rates too high, but we still have to be able to function with the large amount of children coming in. So we just did a $5 increase on both of those. They are still well below the 7 to 17 rate. Get to the next page. As far as utility deposits, that was the next section where we had to make some increases. Again, those increases were put in place mainly to bring us comparable to the surrounding municipalities while also not raising fees at a rate that would be detrimental to the citizens. There was a 25% increase requested for on-demand services for just the deposit charge for water, sewer, and we have a charge for additional meters at a residence. And those were only at levels 2 and 3. So that was just a $10, $20, and $12.50 increase on those. That's just the one-time deposit for when people start services. That's not a monthly charge. It has nothing to do with your base rate or usage.
This is renters, not homeowners.
Yes. Other than that, the temporary service pole charges. So as we know, with all of the construction going on, each one of those residences receives a temporary pole. Right now, those charges are being split 35 to connect and 35 to disconnect. That additional work for the staff, as well as to cover the cost of putting those poles out, we're just combining those into a singular charge of $100 at the time of the pole being installed. The other increases were for the locker seal on your meters. Currently, that charge sits at $50. When the other two charges in regards to meter tampering were $500 and $200, we did bring that up to $300, which again, it's a large jump, but that is completely in line with all the municipalities around us. And that is solely for people, yes ma'am?
That's if they're tampering with the meter.
Right, that's solely for people who are trying to break the seal of a cut meter, pop a lock off a meter. Because they tend to damage those meters, that is just the fee for those services. Again, that's nothing to do with the normal usage, the normal rates. We already talked about the garbage. Oh, yes, then the two other, the after
Let me
hour.
ask you something
Yeah.
about the garbage.
Yeah,
Y'all don't get a set bill every month that y'all have to pay GFL.
there is not a set
Every
bill.
month that it's different.
Yes,
You know, I brought it up 3 months ago as the problem I was having. My GFL dumpster went up crazy. Then they sent me a contract and said I couldn't get out of it. And I took it to Ike, and Ike looked at it, and he said, a lot of this is BS. He's never seen a contract like that. How much of a contract have y'all got, just like the one that I've got, that I could tell a difference from $130 to $268 a month on the very same service that I was getting? I'm just wondering, at what point do y'all see this and say, shoot, we've got a problem. We can't charge a customer $15 and pay them $18 a month in services. So how much the bill that you get from GFL on trash, and I know that we're putting it out on bid, but how much increase do y'all see from month to month? I mean, do you see a $10,000 increase that a flag would pop up and say, look, we need to see what's going on?
no, like in April, we had, 45,480, and then in March, it was 45,552. February, it was 45,767. In January, it was 42,934. So that's a $3,000 jump. But they do it changes every month based on the number of houses that they pick up. So, and then you have smaller bills.
We don't have that many more houses though, Kim. Do they skip some? I'm just trying to.
So if the garbage is not out, they don't charge, I mean, it's if, they go by the house. So if they don't have it out, they put it on a missed list, and then they keep on rolling. So, and then we have a standard $420 a month bill, that's, I think, for a dumpster at the plant. And then we have another one that's for.
Has that plant dumpster of 400 and whatever, have they increased that, or is it's the same thing?
That is stayed the same, yeah. 420.
Well, Paul Dunn at the feed mill, he mentioned to me 2 weeks ago when I was there that his big long dumpster had gone to $875 from $400 and something, and he told GFL to come get it. Now he's got a Carolina or something dumpster company out there, and he said, well, they're not charging me anything. GFL was charging me 4 times what they were doing. I'm just wondering across the board, who else are they getting?
Carolina is a good company. We got one from them at the
Well, there's a
dumpsters
lot-
are pink, but that don't matter.
There's a lot of good companies out there, and we're going to take this out on bid, and we've mentioned it for several years, and it comes up in December. But I'm just wondering if we've got anything that we can go back to GFL and say, look, y'all done this for a year now, and y'all owe us $100,000.
Yeah, I need to go back and look through, because I know that when, not last year, but the year before, we went back out and we asked them for specific prices because we were trying to get the individual cans price right. So we just got this information this week, so I need to go back and do some research on my past emails with GFL and see where the change, because we haven't gotten anything in regards to a change in cost.
Yeah. The cost, you know, cause trash is what, $25? So that $3,000 is equivalent to 120 houses. So I don't see us putting on 120 houses in a month.
Right. So, that's something we've got to dive deeper into. He literally got back to Kayla like yesterday, I think.
Right, and I unfortunately, like Kim said, she can go back and dig through that. I don't have the history on that. I've only been able to dive in the past couple months' bills, and that's when I was able to figure out, while looking at the fee schedule, that what we were charging was not equal to what we were paying. Kim can go back and figure out the history on that, but I unfortunately don't have.
Kayla, is this where your expertise really lied when you were at Harnett County as far as budgets and picking up on stuff like this?
Yes, I'm much more of deep diving into the details and being able to get our budgets down to a zero balance. But again, that's gonna take a year or so because I have to see how the town is operating, and we also need to work as a team to figure out where funds are being spent, where they could be better spent, or just like this bill situation, where we need to assess whether what we are providing is being covered. Because in a town that's growing this fast, there are so many possibilities for things like this to get overlooked, and not by malice or not by anyone's fault, but when the bills come in every month and we are told we have a contract, no one is going to sit and dive line by line every month, right? So just at this one time a year when someone's trying to dive down for the budget, some of these things get noticed. I hate to be the one that noticed some of these things that are leading to these fee increases. But again, if we can get it under control now going forward, we will be able to have a much better handle on our expenses for our operations. So we won't have to see these drastic jumps going forward.
I
But
think
yes,
that's
to
what
answer
we're
your
interested
question,
in,
this
and
is-
even our last meeting that we had, Jerry said, oh, we're the only, there's not but 2 other towns that have their own trash pickup. Well, that's not right. Four Oaks has GFL.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they
there's
get
3
way
of 'em.
cheaper than what
Yeah,
we
Yeah.
pay.
there's several, and you're the one that pointed it out to me as far as you'd already seen and contacted the other towns to see who was doing their own and their own board, and then you had a meeting, mayor's meeting, and that's what y'all were gonna discuss last week. So that could come up later. But I'm interested in, and I reckon I'm interested in this because I've been affected, not through the town, but through GFL. And I mean, they've corrected a lot of stuff, but I don't like the way they did it. They have dropped it to $115 a month. I said, I didn't ask for that. Why could you not do this? Well, we're doing it now. So,
Right, and just like with the rest of this fee schedule, how I mentioned, there's a true need to dive deep for the entirety, for each line by line of the fee schedule. Unfortunately, I'm pushing 8 weeks. I've only been able to get the big ticket items hit, and, thankfully, some of these were found now before we went through the rest of the budget process. So I think over the next year, there are gonna be some probable adjustments in both our revenues and our expenditures as I have more time to sit down and actually delve into not only the invoices each month, but as the revenues get more steady coming in, we can watch that balance to see if more things can be adjusted.
And I really think that's gonna be very important. You're gonna need to watch, because if we've gone almost a year and not knowing that the increase was different than what the intake was, then something's wrong with that picture.
Right, and even some of the places that we did know there was gonna be an increase, just like the biggest hit in the electrical department right now is simply the materials and equipment and infrastructure to get all of this ready for these subdivisions and these homes that are coming in. Unfortunately, those were done, that's a cost that the town is having to incur right now. So this budget, you do see an increase in those departments because we are gonna have to cover those costs. Right now, we are looking at roughly $290,000 for the first phase of ABJ for the electrical department to lay that infrastructure. So those costs have been accounted for in the fiscal year 25 budget for the next two phases of that development. Those are some of the increases you're gonna see in electric, water, sewer, and also the public utility side of the general fund, because solely the cost of doing business has increased in those departments. And again, I think that's one of those, I don't know if those were wholeheartedly anticipated. I don't know if the magnitude of those were anticipated, but unfortunately, that's something that at this point, we are having to come to terms with and cover for the foreseeable future until those projects are handled. But those are, you will see when you look at it, some of the significant increases in those departments. It's not new equipment, it's not new services, it's simply for us to be able to cover the cost of getting those services offered and out.
Now, are we covered when we're putting the money out up front? Are we getting that money back, or is this one of those, ABJ is something that had already happened?
It was already approved before we did our ordinance in January.
You only get the money back through a facilities charge every month on a power bill.
Okay, so that's gonna be an increase right there, and trash, whatever will be an increase. How about, we talked about this before you came on board, Kayla, 6 months ago, as far as comp time with police officers. Now, we were looking at comp time, they couldn't take comp time, or if they did, it was not when they needed it, it was when they were told that they could do it. And we were saying that there was some things that were not working out there. Are we going to have to come back and get our comp time straightened out, and it cost us more?
No, to the best of my knowledge, the comp time is either already handled or still in the process of being handled. Employees at the police department have been granted time to take off to use that comp time balance, and going forward, they are not accruing comp time. They are paid for their hours. So that is not
Okay,
currently an
didn't we
overhead
have, though,
liability.
some catching up to do with
Yeah, but
that?
we had, the ones that had, Billy and Greg
Yeah.
went and pulled the ones who had the most hours.
Yeah,
And like, we had one person, he took, what, 3 weeks? Almost a month? Off with his comp time.
It's almost completely gone.
Yeah, they've done a phenomenal job in ensuring that schedules and shifts were still covered, but also allowing people to use that comp time. So no, that's not currently an overhead liability
okay.
any longer.
That's,
Right.
that's
No,
what I
they did a
need to
wonderful
know.
job with
I
that.
didn't know if it was a part of this budget and was building up, because I knew that was a big concern 6 months ago as far as, well, we got it, but we can't take it, and they won't pay us for it, and all of this other, and
They took it.
and I think you looked into it as far as what we could or couldn't do as far as time and a half or whatever. But it's good.
Yes, sir. It'll be gone before July 1.
Great.
No, any of the increases you're seeing in police right now, we did split out for salaries. You're going to see a bit of an increase because we actually wanted to adequately have coverage for Mule Days, the special events. There are no more comp time, so there is going to be a bit more overtime because we're not doing that comp payout. Other than that, your increases in your police department, we are going to look at 2 vehicles for replacement, because how many were purchased all at once? Remind me? 6. So we had 6 at once come for lease, and so those are all hitting the age that they need to be replaced. As we know, those vehicles run every single day, 24 hours. So we're going to try to start a staggered replacement of those. We've put in for 2 this year. If and when those 2 get in, we can then attempt to sell the 2 that we are replacing. Again, that's going to be based on the mercy of the market at that point, because as we all know, those vehicles are well used before we get rid of them, but we may see a little bit of revenue for that. But there are 2 of those included in the capital outlay for the police department. And other than that, those are your main increases for them this year. So that's where you're seeing that little increase. It's
Okay,
not comp time.
when's their deadline? What's the deadline on the budget?
June 30th.
June the 30th.
We'll have 2 meetings in June.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, and it's hard to spring all of this on you and expect you to ask any feasible questions or have any understanding of it because, well, you can't read everything that fast. So, we, like Kim said, we are here. We are open to another work session. We are open to if we need a special meeting.
Or y'all come meet with us during the week. next
Right.
week.
I just really want to ensure that each one of you has a chance to digest this as well as ask any questions. Because like I said, this has been me 8 weeks looking at this budget and trying to formulate a plan for next year to ensure that the town's financial stability is moving in the up and up direction. You guys are going to have more of a baseline knowledge than I will of some of these issues, as well as some of your goals and concerns as the board. I have looked at your principles and the mission and tried to include those in the priorities for the budget. But again, anything that you all would like to see, any changes or any ideas, we want to hear those because we want to ensure that what we produce going forward for next year is something that everybody is happy with.
Well, I'm just still concerned about the dates. We've got to June the 30th to really vote and approve a budget, whatever it is. If it's cut 100,000 or increased $1 million, we've got to do something. I'm interested in dates as far as things happening. 3 engineers for the fire department. July the 1st. If it's approved, July the 1st is not the hiring date.
Correct.
You have hiring dates. It's just like GFL. Our contract is up in December, so that's when we've got to be ready to pull the trigger on saving money or putting out more money.
Correct.
The electrical department, the $270,000 that they're going to need. When do you pull the trigger on y'all order whatever you need because you've got to have it?
Yeah, so in terms of your utilities, water, sewer, electric, those don't have to be one lump sum at the beginning of the fiscal year purchases. There are some things, transformers, large purchases, yes. As far as the fire department is concerned, Al and I had talked, we had planned on a stagger start of September for those positions. Simply because if this budget isn't approved until July, there's no magic way that we can turn around and have somebody hired right then anyway, because we are not going to start the hiring process until we know that you all are happy with and have confirmed the budget for next year. If we wait until September, that also then allows for a few months of revenue and a few months of the budget in place to make sure everything is functioning properly. So yes, there aren't very many things in this budget that the moment the clock strikes midnight on July 1st, we're going to go out and throw all the money.
I mean, there's no departments, Parks and Rec are not looking at, we can't spend anything until July the 1st, but come July the 1st, we've got this project that's going to cost $400,000 and we got the money. Nothing like that. Okay.
Should not be.
Yeah, I was going to say, it
Okay,
should
well-
not be, not to the best of my knowledge. And I can assure you going forward that that will not be the intention for the budget. Because, yes, we try to slow down on spending April, May, June, but as we all know, running operations, the budget season is like Christmas and your birthday. It comes every year. So secondary to emergencies, most of our operational purchasing and planning should be done knowing that these deadlines are coming. So because we've already talked about it, I'm gonna bring this up. Water and sewer, the Rural Water Association study that was done for a 5-year plan, that included the rate increase structure over 5 years. The water sewer rates, you will see an increase in those this year. Not only from that study, but also due to the increase because of the purchase price for the water we are receiving. So right now, the bulk purchase price was raised to $5.35. That is what the municipalities around us are charging for bulk purchase water, and considering we purchase our water from them, it's fair to say that we can charge the same rate for others who want to purchase bulk water from us. The base rate for inside town limits will increase $3.49 for water and sewer.
That's commercial and residential?
Residential, commercial, and industrial.
Okay.
$3.49 base rate and $1.95 on usage. Now, implemented this fiscal year, I was directed that any outside customers for water and sewer, their rates will be double of what the insides are. So all outside rates, residential, commercial, industrial, as of July 1st, assuming everybody is on board, will be double what the inside rates are.
And that's pretty standard.
Hey,
I mean, they don't live in the city, so.
that's fine.
Another thing going forward, based on the growth that we've seen, we did add a new class in water sewer, and it's residential and commercial irrigation. So irrigation customers, they have a separate meter, but they also are not paying the sewer on that water. And because of that, most municipalities, the rate is a bit higher on those. So the base rate will be the same for those, but the usage rates will be a bit higher than the residential.
What is the base rate?
It's gonna be $8.44. Oh, the base rate or the usage fee? I'm sorry.
Base rate,
The base rate, $17.49.
okay. So the base rate used to be $15, correct?
For water,
For water meter.
water was 14.
14.
And it's increasing to 17.49. Keep in mind Johnston County's increasing their base fee on us 35%. And their usage rate was 6. Dunn has said that they actually have, we reached out to Dunn, which is odd that we've had to do that this year. They usually get to us fairly quickly. They were supposed to meet on their budget, but Steve told me that there was no proposed increase in bulk rate this year, which is good, because last year they went up like 12%, I think, if I recall correctly. But we had Rural Water come in and do a study on our rates. They did a 5-year projection study. So from that study in water and sewer, we have to increase it by 15% the first year on our side, and then 10% every year after that. So we take ours 15% and then the 6% that Johnston County has given us. Get all that?
Right, and that 15% in the first year actually equaled out to closer to an 18 or 20% based on our current rates. I'm unsure if when the study was done, there was talk of our base rates being increased between now and then, but it was closer to 18 to 20%. So again, that 15 coupled with the 6, coupled with the inflation since the study was done, that's where you're seeing the $3.49 and $1.95 increase for those. But I will continue, the irrigation rates, those are $8.44 and $8.82 respectively for residential and commercial. Again, they're not being charged sewer, it's just the base rate and the usage for those customers. And the biggest hit in electric to try and cover some of these costs for the infrastructure, there was only a 1/10 of a penny increase for residential usage. So that really will not see a large effect on our customers. The biggest realignment we did, and it was really more of a realignment than an increase overall, was our commercial customers. The small, medium, and large general, we realigned them based on demand to not only more adequately cover the cost of the electric and the demand they're using, because again, we are having to pay for that electric, but also with the increase in these large consumers, like the electric car chargers, you know, their demand, when they hit all at once, those are the largest pull that we're gonna see. So we've realigned the schedule so that your medium really covers, I would probably say 70 to 80% of our commercial customers in the town. And that large now is more targeted or focused towards the really large hitters when they come in. And we wanted to take the time and make that delineation, because if we had left the demand schedule the way it was, we felt like some of our larger commercial who really weren't at the same rate as the Tesla, the chargers, we felt they were going to be unfairly increased because their demand wasn't as high. So that's why we did realign that structure and change it from 30 to 100 to 15 to 300 for the middle in demand. So really, anybody 300 and over is the only people that are going to get charged in the large category going forward.
Does that make sense to everyone?
No, it don't.
Okay, so commercial meters are, there's, where residential is KWH, commercial is charged on KW and KWH. So we have right now currently a small, a medium, a large. The small is 0 to 30 KW currently. Medium is 31 to 99.99, and large is 100 and over. And what Crystal does every month when she does billing is, when it's a commercial, she's to look at what the demand charge is, and she has to change them right now from, like, say it's Hampton Inn, okay? May or April was a pretty fair month. Their demand might have only been 75, so they're gonna be medium. But this month is really hot, and their demand may jump because everybody's gonna cut their air conditioners on, and their demand this month might be 102. They're gonna be pushed into a large commercial rate. Their rate's gonna be higher. And it changes every month. What Kayla has done is, has changed the demand, where now your small is 0 to 15, and they're still not gonna be charged for their demand usage, only KWH. Your medium is gonna be 15.1 to 300, and they'll be charged for their demand. And then your large hitter is really gonna be almost Tesla, really. I mean, they're paying right now more than the hotel's utility bill is, which was crazy to me. And their demand's gonna be 301 or 300.1 and up. And that's gonna be your large customers. So anytime we read on these commercial meters, we have to read two things. We have to read the KW and also the KWH. And the KW is based on their highest peak of that month. So she did the adjustment not to hurt our local businesses, and not to hurt anybody, but she did it to kind of keep the smaller, like, mom and pop shops, like, they're kind of staying in where they were before.
Because not only do our customers get charged demand, we get charged demand for the power we purchase, right?
Yes.
So say Parks and Rec turns on all the ballpark lights at the same time somebody charges in their car to Tesla, at the same time all the churches in town turn their lights on. So because all of that demand is hitting the electric grid at one time, we are charged more money for that power. So in turn, we have to return those charges. So you're right. It's contraindicative that Tesla would cost more than the entire Hampton Inn for the month. But because when somebody comes and plugs in the car all at once, that charge is so high on demand, that's why their bills are higher, because demand is charged at a multiplier rate compared to a usage rate. And I apologize that I didn't go into that explanation, but again, I've been delving headfirst into these rates for 2 weeks, so I forget that not everybody is well-versed in demand versus KWH.
So, the extra $10,000 a month that Electric Cities is charging us, where is that figure being passed on at,
The base fee.
the base fee?
Everybody got a $5 increase.
On the
based
base
on-
fee?
Based on the number of customers.
But that was done previously in the current
Yeah.
fiscal year.
Yeah, that's already done. That's,
Yeah. I mean, $120,000 a year that we're sending them for, and I'm still not sure why.
Rider one, because they estimate a year before it happens. So when they did their estimations for 2022 and the final numbers came in 2023, there was a shortfall in their estimation. So
So Electric Cities, people that are a part of Electric Cities, everybody is picking that up and paying for that?
everybody is, and everybody's is different based on the size of their utility.
Okay.
So like ours
so
is 10, I think Smithfield's was 25,000 a month.
Smithfield's 50.
50 a month, okay, yeah.
Smithfield's got to pay $50,000 a month extra to them.
That's why they raised their rates.
So, and in the past, the board has decided to say if there's an overage like that, then they say, have your capital fund pay for it. The problem is Electricity's capital fund now has dropped below what they deemed, or what the board at one time deemed, the line that it didn't need to drop below. And so that's why the municipalities are having to pay it back this time. It's because they're trying to build their capital back up.
Okay, next year, let's say their capital's up. Once an increase, always an increase. Do you think they would come back and say, okay, y'all don't owe us $10,000 a month?
I do not think that they're gonna suspend Rider One early. It is a
Uh-huh.
24-month payment, and that's what it'll be. So we started it in May, in May of 26, it'll fall off.
Yeah, but once you get used to getting something, do you think it'll fall off, or do you think they'll come up with something else?
They'll come up with something
I think, well, I've already told you there's a possibility that October you're gonna have Rider 1B show up, and that'll be for 2023's true up, but we won't know until a little bit closer. But you also have it's not just Electric Cities making the decision, it's 32 cities making the decision. So, and then it goes to the board of directors. So you have your board of commissioners, which is the board I sit on, and then you have the board of directors, which is a smaller board. They're the ones that usually are doing all the talking at the Electric Cities conferences. So, I mean, it has to pass through the 32 cities. And it was not an easy pass for them. I mean, I think they had majority, but there was a lot of us that voted no. So,
What if it would have voted down?
then they would have had to have figured out, they would have had to have gone back to the drawing board and figured out a different way to cover the cost.
If we'd have known the truth when that contract came from Electric Cities and Duke Power, we would have never signed it.
Well,
But that money was not in the picture then. We would have been paid up next year.
well, your debt still falls off in 2025. I mean, we've talked about that. That debt is $25,000 a month. So that falls off, it goes away in December of 25. now we're currently paying 10,000 more, so
So we're paying $35,000 a month to Electric Cities.
on top of what we're paying for our wholesale bill. Yeah.
Plus, somebody spent $60 million. I don't know who spent that.
Well, I think somebody need to be trying to find out.
That's how much we were supposed to get back at the end of when we paid our last debt.
But our debt's not, well, I see, and I don't know anything about that.
And we
But-
gotta buy from Duke Power for another 10
I
years.
know, I'm sorry I
think.
got on that, but you were,
No,
y'all,
you're
no,
totally fine. No.
there's a lot of questions that I have that can't be answered tonight about the budget, but y'all go ahead with the budget.
I think what she's done, the rates, you've done,
Yeah,
talked about electric.
we've talked about the increases for the workforce, the positions, and the 1.5, the fee schedule. And again, truthfully, I would love to be able to wait a week or two and have everybody go home and digest this and come back so we can actually have a conversation where we can answer questions that you all have, as opposed to us just relaying information that you have in front of you that you haven't had time to digest yet, if that makes sense. But the overall totals for this year, so the revised fiscal year 24 was $16,491,434. Fiscal year 25 recommended is $18,217,571 for an, yes, of $657,021. So again, that increase I was gonna say that math is not correct.
1,726,137.
Thank you. But again, these increases, we're not offering any huge expansions in regards to capital or new programs or new services. These are increases solely based on continuing our operations and ensuring that the level of service we provide to the citizens remains the same, if not improved.
So the town's recommended total budget is 18 million.
Well, now that that math isn't correct, I want to check and make sure, because now I'm worried.
You have a number wrong.
Yeah. Because again, I apologize, I was working to get my facts and figures straight for so long that translating this into the presentation was honestly the last step in my process. So the presentation was not as detailed as I had hoped it would be, but I was trying to chase down these last minute rabbit holes like these garbage increases. And with the recent happenings in the building, I wanted to ensure that there is contingency throughout the budget where we know we're gonna have to pay for some things, not just in the building, but in all the departments in general. So I wanted to ensure that we have enough contingency in each fund for those things that come up. Because then at the end of the year, we're not stuck in a deficit because we didn't have any extra funding for the unknown. Kim's saying that it's 17,991,379.
Is recommended or 24?
Recommended.
Recommended. 17 what?
991,379.
And again, I will go through these figures and send them out to everybody, if not tonight, tomorrow.
You gotta give us that public works number.
Yes, we'll get it.
In this budget, is donations in it?
No,
Okay.
they are not in it. And I think you put some buffer in there for the
contingency I have in there for not just town hall, but anywhere else that we may come into some unknown expenses in the next year.
You ready? Town manager report.
So again, Kayla and I are available in the next 2 weeks. If you guys want to sit down and talk, I know it's, especially for Miss Holly, it's the end of the school year. We got a lot going on, but let us know. We'll get something on the books and have y'all come and talk with us individually if you want to. Currently this week we have Public Works Week. It ends on the 25th. Monday we are closed for Memorial Day. June the 7th is Friday night sports starting at 7 o'clock. June 13th, there's a Sundown and Downtown concert at in the Grove. It's the Band of Oz. I also want to make a note that spring cleanup is going to be a little different this year with GFL. They are going to do every Saturday in the month of June to come through and get the yard debris for spring cleanup. And then they will do a final sweep in July. So that will start June the 1st. That's the first Saturday of the month. So
Will they pick up?
they'll pick up yard debris, tree limbs. What they usually do, they do it twice a year. So they'll do that starting in June.
Their truck is still out there once a week picking up yard debris?
Our truck will not be picking up during that time because we don't typically pick up during spring cleanup time.
I didn't
Yeah.
know when they did.
No, we will not. It'll be all GFL for that month of June. And the roundabout is open. If y'all didn't see my text today, oh, well, there was a wreck
I heard.
5 hours later. So, but it's open. So, and
Max said he was running late for the meeting. He got hung up, went around it 4 times before he could get off of it.
I did get a video from Alan today with the first transfer truck that went over it, so I can show y'all all that if you want to see it after the meeting. But yeah, so right now it's open, and I'm so glad, and hope that's all they do for a little while.
So the trucks don't have any type of problems going through there?
The transfer truck that Alan sent us, I mean, it just went right on over the median,
It's
and
not that high.
yeah, it's not high at all.
But you said it went over it.
Yeah, it does not round it; it goes over it.
Yeah, because someone had mentioned that, and he was like, a truck driver would probably have to go over. There's no way they can actually.
No, yeah, they drove right
It's
over it.
designed for the transfer trucks or whatever, just to go right on over.
But it is designed specifically for them.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's all I
Okay,
got.
Max.
I have nothing. Good.
Nothing.
Well, this is it's an ordinance already. I want, since you have some help now, Kim, I want to get back on the trash can ordinance.
Okay.
And I want to see it become effective. Now, I don't know how you're gonna work it out, but you got help, so y'all can figure it out.
Okay.
Will,
I'm good.
I'll entertain a motion to go in closed session.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session. We have two.
You don't, you really don't need
I
to
don't
read
have
the
to-
whole thing,
okay.
you can just do the
Just one
sides.
of them?
The 143, 318, 11, A3,
Okay.
and A4.
All right, 143-318-11, and then 143-318, 11, A4,
A3 and A4.
A3 and A4.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Ooh.